do is put it in sections for to the, just sort of breaks it up. He goes, I know exactly what you want, I'll take care of. That's okay. She said, hey, you want to put it in any order, color? I said, no. Come on, any way you want. That's it. Yes. That way you just make it out. It's sort of like this. You know, it's pretty cold. You know what? Okay. I'm just going to go between this and this is when you come back, go get your stuff. So cam two is so we no, play something. Cool. Mail they wander around. And this is the screen.
Yes.
So most stores are going to have just these two. Yeah, so does so you didn't see it. And I'm going to just so you didn't see it up. Yeah, we looked at surgery the same day. Oh, that's part of our. I'll be there for now. So, awesome. Yes.
Good presentation. Yeah, that was it. Let them get seated. People signing in, that means they're good. That's good.
Hey, measure section is on line.
I guess we can wait for the last two sit downs.
Yeah. Let's wait for a moving crowd.
Yep. Good evening. You turned it on. Averting 32. Good evening. We take our seats here. We'll get started. Good evening and welcome to our 220th meeting. Are there any new members here tonight? Very good. You want to stand up and tell us who you are?
My name is Greg Marcus.
Okay. Welcome. Any other new members? Any guests here tonight? Hi, you want to stand up and tell us who you are?
Be a member a long time ago.
Welcome back. Welcome back.
Good evening, everybody. I'm not a member. Always like it. I feel like home. I think it's going to serve for 47 years. And actually, I just wanted to learn for yoga.
Very good. Welcome. Welcome. All right. In case you didn't remember from the last time I made this announcement, we all know that the 2025 F3C conference is going to be in March, which you'll hear more about tonight. But the DPI-SIG Club Board of Directors voted to give a $29 discount to any DPI-SIG member who buys a ticket for the conference. The tickets are normally $139, and you get $29 off. When you sign up for your ticket, you just have to designate that DPI-SIG is your club. You'll automatically get the discount. And then DPI-SIG makes up the difference to F3C. They're not out anything at all. Don't forget, we have a membership campaign. Anybody who recommends a member and he signs up, you get a $20 gift card. Would Gretchen come up here? Gretchen.
Thank you. For the new member who didn't want to stand up.
Oh, okay. I noticed that. So if you got any friends, people you know, tell them about the club, and good chance you could get a $20 gift card. I received quite a large database from Gary from Hunts Photo and Video. It's all used equipment, and there's over 900 cameras and lenses on there. So and the prices look really good from what I can see. Gary sends me stuff every once in a while. So I didn't want to send out the whole membership, but if you're interested, drop me an email, sunny@naples.net, and I'll send you the database. I looked at it, it's like 900 of them, and it's got every brand, every model that you could imagine. At the end of the meeting tonight, we'll have a door prize drawing for 8 door prizes. And so without further ado, I'll turn it over to Marcel, our master of ceremony.
Oh, I was going to say, I didn't hear the applause. Thank you very much. I want to tell you, I went to the doctor today, and when you're my age, you're on the medical merry-go-round, but this all preventative stuff. So the doctor says to me, he says, you got to change your ways because, you're 82 years old. It's time to be safe and be careful. I said, what do you mean? He said, well, you got to stop carousing with women, and you got to stop drinking. And if you're smoking, don't do that. And certainly you can't do pot. And he said, if you do that, you'll be number one. You'll be the top of the ladder. And I thought about that, and I said, what do I do for second place? Okay, here we go. Art David, you're up first. First DPI-SIG digital competition for 2025. Give him a big hand.
Thank you, Marcel. The first digital competition opens on Wednesday, January 15th. If you're like me, I like to see things rather than just be told or listen to it. It goes in my ear and out the other. So here we go. Your own. Now we're adding, you can't construct anything with AI. Okay, no construction of an image with AI. There's kind of a gray area now with Photoshop, for example. Anything with AI.
Well, you know you're live on the air.
That was worth saying twice.
We found it.
All right, let's try that again.
You heard your voice Tuesday night, didn't you?
Where was I? Okay, there's a kind of a gray area with Photoshop because some of the techniques for years now have been using AI. And we don't call it AI necessarily, but they are AI techniques. The thing is that using, for example, cloning, that's an AI technique, but it uses the pixels.
You moved from mic.
Pardon me?
You moved away from the mic.
Now you can't hear me either?
I can, but
All right. Can you hear me? Yeah. All right.
I'll take it out. Take it out. There we go.
All right. You may not instruct anything using AI, okay? All the images have to be your own. Let's see, anything else? And of course, all these rules are in the website. These are the category definitions. The first three remain the same, at least they are now. If we have any changes, they'll be on the website. The fourth category, that's the theme category, will be specifically explained. When you hit that red bar to enter, you'll have something like this. And I have to say that Malin has done an incredible job of putting this together. It's easy to enter, and it's also easy for the judges to use this website. So all you do is you download or upload the photo, you indicate what category it goes into, and I believe you put the title. And that's about it. The website does everything for you. Now you can change the image that you've uploaded up until the last date of the competition. I'll say that again in a second. You can enter up to 4 images, up to three in any one category. So that means if you enter 4 images, you're going to have at least 2 categories. I thought I'd share this with you. This was taken with an iPhone by a student in one of my introductory to photography classes. I think it's magnificent. I think it would win a ribbon. So if she can do it, you guys can do it. So please enter the competition. Good luck.
You're not done, Stina?
So if one is January 15th, when is the last day?
February 15th.
Any limits on image size?
I believe that the website will resize it.
Images get into the competition at 1024 by maximum. You can enter them larger than that, but the software will scale it down, and you're at the risk of the software that it's going to do what you want it to do. So you're better off to enter it at 1024 by 1024 yourself.
That's in the instructions. Okay. On a personal note, I'd like to inform you that on Tuesday, this coming Tuesday, January 15th, 14th, sorry, thank you. On January 14th, when I see a calendar in front of me, I'll get it. I will be having a personal exhibit of street photography that I've taken over the years at the Marco Island Center for the Arts. It starts at 5:30 and it'll go to 7:30. That's Tuesday, January 14th. Thank you. Okay.
Can I ask you a question? Sure. Can I ask a question about the competition direction?
Sure.
So, if you take a photo with your phone, how do you size it to the right size directly?
Can you handle the mic?
Is there a way?
By the time I get over there, they'll be done. This is the problem. It's better to hand them the mic because they can't hear it.
First thing we put in Photoshop and resize it.
Does anyone, would you tell them what the question is? Because the Zoom people can't hear when we don't have a mic by that person. What was the question, Diaz?
The question, if I understood it, was can you resize a smartphone image in the smartphone?
Yeah, there's apps for that. There's Lightroom and just Photoshop apps
Yes,
for your phone.
okay. There are phone apps, Lightroom and Photoshop,
And others too.
okay? So you can do it in your phone.
Okay, so you have to be fine. Okay.
Fancy.
It's Lightroom Mobile, I believe it's called. Something like that.
One more time, what is the date of your?
Tuesday, January 14th. I think I got it right this time. I'll be
Is it
there.
only one day?
No,
Is your exhibition only one day?
no, it's the opening.
Okay.
It's Tuesday, and it goes on all month.
It's in the same place Bob Kennedy's was.
Exactly. It's the Marco Island Center for the Arts
Congratulations.
on Winterberry Drive, I believe it's called.
It'll be in the letter.
Snapseed app that's available for Android and iPhone.
Snapseed, an app that's available for both Android and iPhone will, has a resize function in there. And that's a free app for both.
I hope that answers your question.
All right. I use Topaz. It's quite simple, but I just upgrade the photo in Topaz when I do a cell phone photo. It's amazing. Of course, you all know what the cell phone will do today with pictures. It's incredible. Anyway, okay, up next, Malin Stacy.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm gonna get tangled in the cords up here. You don't know what's going on back here, I tell you. Crazy. Let me get a slide out here. So, those of you that were here last month, we announced the winners of the year-end competition. And we have trophies for all those people. Carol and Jim Heffernan, are they here tonight? Probably not, but we have trophies for them as well.
They got their class. They came up with.
They picked up their trophies? Perfect. The first place winner for that year-end competition was Diana Alea. And I have a trophy right here, Don. Come get it. Also, on the website, I have a bit called the blogs where we talk about some of these winning images. And Diana was nice enough to send in a blurb about how she took the picture and where it was and so forth. So check that out on the website. Congratulations.
Thank you.
You did great work.
Yes.
Also, just to promote a little more, if you're not getting tired of the Jim and Malin show yet, and there's a lot more to come yet tonight, next month in February, we're going to be doing 3 15-minute sessions instead of one long presentation. One of those will be a talk on smartphones that I'm going to do. What's the date on that meeting, Sonny? It's before the end of the competition, right?
Second Thursday of the month.
Yeah, so I believe that's before the 15th. And you'll get some information on how to resize images in that presentation, as well as some other things about smartphones. Cool. Marcel?
All right, up next, Joe Carmo, sorry, Joe. M3C 2025 conference update. Welcome, Joe.
Hello, everyone.
Is there anybody in the room that is not receiving? Is there anyone in the room that's not receiving emails once a week with a speaker profile? If you're on that?
Maybe not.
No, one person.
That's good.
If you're not receiving that when you opted into the program, you had the choice of selecting to be on the F3C database. You have to click that. So you're gonna have to notify us and we can then activate you so you receive the weekly emails. A lot has been going on in the last couple of months. Right now, this is probably a little outdated. Yeah, we're up to, according to Sunny, we're up to 28 speakers. We have 71 one-hour presentations. We have 17 workshops, 8 outings, 2 keynote speakers, and most importantly, we have 3 presentations for students. looking around here, I know all the women look very young, youthful. Some of the guys are getting a little long in the tooth. So we're getting old. And if I've been talking a lot to the clubs, in F3C and outside of F3C, and they're all faced with the same problem. There's no young people. So we're trying to recruit students. We're going to the colleges with our efforts. We're going to high schools. We're offering them some reduced rates to lure them in, get them involved in the programs with us. We hope it works. One of the other big things that is happening, I feel it's a nice step forward, is we're going to have technical presentations by the technical reps from Nikon, Canon, Sony, and Olympus. They're going to give some basic presentations and some advanced technical presentations on the use of their advanced cameras. So I think this is going to be some nice presentations we're going to have. We have been conducting email campaigns. Once a week, we come out with the speaker profile and we describe what's going on. We are going way outside the club to unaffiliated clubs, individuals, trying to get them involved, get them the emails. We're trying to do a fairly good sized recruiting effort. I'd like to say I've been bothering Malin at least 2 or 3 times a day. He's done a great job on the website presenting everything and helping me out with how to get around the website. And Terry Palmer has also done an excellent job, but Terry Palmer's also done an excellent job on our database management, getting the emails out. But it's Sonny over here who has been dogging every good speaker in the country, trying to recruit them into the program. And it seems to have been working. So those are the basic areas that we're moving ahead in, trying to promote photography, get new kids coming in, get people. I'm finding out, I'm calling up all of the clubs in the state, and I'm finding out there's been a lot of clubs that are closing their doors and their members don't appear to be going into other clubs. I'm trying to track those members down and trying to get them into other clubs. We're trying to get people, once we find people within those clubs that are not involved in photography anymore, we're sending them flyers and we're asking and getting them to email them over to other people in their clubs that aren't involved. Try to recruit people to get them more involved because it's a shrinking industry. And we want to keep this thing going. We're finding out a lot of clubs are having the same problems with people passing away. There's nobody coming up in the ranks, except for a few clubs. And I've been talking to those clubs and they are making efforts going after the young people and they are getting results. So it can work. And that's where I think the current status is of everything we've been doing for the last.
Register? How do they register?
You, on the website, on the flyers that you get every week, there is a link to register. Click on the link, it'll bring you right to the website. You can register for the conference there. Cool. Any other questions? No? Okay, I have a question. Your hand is up in the back, no? Does anybody in here have telephone experience where they've done a lot of telemarketing and things like that? And they're bored, you're retired, you got a few hours each week. I could use a little help. Okay, anybody that is at home watching this right now, if you'd like to come on and do a little phone work with us, I'll even make the coffee. Give Sonny a call and get in contact with us. Thank you.
All right, everybody, this is very exciting now. It is, truly. Videography. Jim Robillard and Malin Stacy are going to give a presentation tonight, so here we go. Do you want the mic there? I said, here we go. Are we going yet?
We have to get
Not
my
yet. We're
spray
not
paint
quite
over
there.
here,
We're
right?
not quite there. We're getting there. We're getting there. You know, I sent 32 letters to the Art Institute in New York City telling them I wanted to do a one-man show. So I finally sent a letter last week saying that I'm 82 years old. I have a lot of photo experience. I actually did work for a studio in Chicago, an advertising agency, in another lifetime when I was much younger, but I'm running out of time. And they sent me a letter back and said, we'll squeeze you in 2088.
Who's got the book? Oh, here it is. You want to do it or shall I?
You can do it.
All right. Shall I put this on?
That's on.
Oh, should I put it on? Wear it? You wearing one?
No, you can have that one.
Can they hear you?
Hopefully. Yeah. All right, how many people have actually, shot video? Okay.
iPhone.
Yeah.
That counts. That counts. That counts.
So tonight, we're gonna try and confuse you. Now, it can be complicated, and we're gonna try and take some of that out of, in terms of demystifying. Go ahead, hit the magic button. You know, what is that button? What does it do? What are the choices you can make? You know, how is videography different than photography, and how does it complement what we're doing here? So we're going to actually talk through what equipment you need. You know, it would be nice if we had a slide.
Yeah, I know, it didn't work. We had too many places to go.
Okay. What equipment you need, how it works, how it's different than photography, how it's the same. The big thing that I think is confusing is when you look at the back of a mirrorless camera and you go to the video settings, what are all the resolutions? You know, 8K, 4K, 1080p, all the different codecs. So we'll take you through that, what the choices are and what our recommendation is. And then the importance of sound, which we struggle with and you'll struggle with with video. It is amazingly difficult. And then the differences between telling a story with a photograph versus telling a story with a video, which gives you a lot more options, which we'll talk about. And then, of course, there is what do you do with the footage? And tonight we're not going to talk too much about editing. We'll show you some editing programs, but the intent is really to introduce you to video as a storytelling mode, demystify it, answer some questions.
Or mystify it.
Or mystify it, could be. So I thought we'd start by first showing a video here that, I think if you click it one more time, it'll play, that I shot several years ago. Question is, are we going to get the sound?
Is there a sound?
Well, there certainly is.
Okay.
And it's important. See, you can see how it's, there it is. On YouTube. Here it is. I think we've all been to this place.
So you're going to pay inside the store?
No idea. This is taken 2 years ago. And here you can see where some of the differences are. I mean, the behavior of feeding the birds, you know, it's difficult to capture. And you'll see the juxtaposition of still photos to this. branch is missing. One being equal mother. Regurgitating before feeding the baby. One thing that comes across, is how crowded the rotary is and how they all interact with each other. So, there are a lot of choices for video, yes.
I want to speak.
Okay.
One, I've watched a lot of YouTubes about doing wildlife videography in the last couple of weeks or month or so. One of the things that impressed me a lot was the fact that when you're shooting video, all those distractions that get in the way of a still photograph disappear in the video if your subject is alive and moving. Because that's where your attention goes, and all those branches and everything else tend to disappear. You can get your subject alive in the video. Otherwise, it's just part of the background if it's behind brush and branches and so forth.
So you have a lot of options for photography or videography. GoPros are around $500. Your phone, certainly. You can go all the way up to using one of the DSLRs. You can put it on a gimbal. We'll talk about that. These are Malin and my rigs here for videography. We'll talk about that. You can go down and you can get a camcorder. And so the advantage of a camcorder is that everything's built in. The disadvantage is that, it's a relatively small sensor. It's only about an inch, but the zoom lens is built in. Sound is really good, and it does shoot 4K for about $2,000. So that's kind of your choices. And here's Neil and I in the wind the other day, freezing our ass off.
This was Tuesday morning.
You don't play, right?
Oh, yeah. Okay.
Video. Remember?
Yeah, video. We did video. This was Tuesday morning down on the Marsh Trail. And basically, these two cameras we brought hauled down there and took pictures and so forth.
And one of the things you'll see is that it requires a tripod. Yeah, well, if you're on your iPhone, you can do it in stabilization. We'll talk about that. But to do it with the bigger cameras and the longer lenses, you can't even really do it with the monopod. Really requires a pretty beefy tripod. So that's the disadvantage. So how do you, when you see these numbers, movies, if you remember when you were a kid and you had the book of pictures and you flipped it through and it moves, right? That's what's called frames per second. And so movies today are all shot at 24 frames per second. That's kind of the industry standard. video or TV has been typically at 30 frames per second. The difference is that 24 frames per second for a movie looks very realistic, and our eye likes that. All the movies are shot at. Most of our TV shows are shot at 30. You can shoot at a higher frame rate of 60 frames, and the reason for that is you're going to capture more data, but you're also going to capture, you'll be able to slow it down to 24 frames per second, and that's how they get slow motion. And so like even at hockey game or baseball game, they're actually shooting at 120 or 240 frames per second. So when you do the replay, it can slow it down dramatically. Again, the downside is, think about when you press your shutter on taking stills and you're taking 20 or 30 frames in a second, how quickly that buffer fills up, how quickly the card fills up. So to shoot the video, you're going to go through a lot of disk space.
And it doesn't matter how many frames per second I'm shooting, I'm always in slow motion.
So the rule for exposure with video is it's twice whatever the frame rate is. And that's kind of the industry standard rule. So if you're going to shoot in 24 frames per second, that would be 1/50th of a second. 30 frames is 1/60th, 60 is 1/25th, and 120 is at 2/50th. Because there's motion blur, this was a still out of a 60 frame, and you can see the wings aren't sharp. But you don't see that when you look at the video because you're going through. So it's a totally different way of thinking about your exposure, because now you're locked at a relatively slow shutter speed. So what does that cause? That causes some problems in the bright sunlight. So you have to think about that. So there are ways around it. You can shoot in shutter priority at say 1/60th of a second and let the camera choose the aperture and the ISO. That'd be one way to do it. The other way is shooting shutter priority, auto ISO, and set the aperture to the desired aperture and let the ISO go up or down. Like the other day, we were shooting at 1/60th. I was at 7.1, you were at 9, and we were about F11, F13.
Yep.
And ISO 100.
At ISO 100 in sunlight, you need to be at F13 or higher even. You can't get your ISO down to 14 or 12 or ISO 12 or whatever.
Go to the next slide. So, that becomes a problem, like Malin had said, low ISO 100, that's as low as you can get. It forces you up into the higher things, and that's fine for us if you're going to go out and shoot wildlife. If they're shooting a movie, however, they want the shallow depth of field. So that's where the next slide comes in, where it's neutral density filters. And so most motion picture cameras have built-in neutral density filters. And so they'll shoot at f2 or f2.8 to get that nice creamy background because they're shooting at 1/60th or 1/50th of a second. And, so with the ISO down at 100, the only way to do it is to use the neutral density filter. Typically, a 6-stop is what you need. Bring it down. And they're expensive. Question?
I don't quite understand. If you're in video mode on your camera, why are you setting, and you put it at 24 frames, why are you setting a shutter speed? Isn't that connected to the?
No, you have to shut it. And if you're going to shoot 24 frames per second, you can shoot it at 1/400th of a second if you want. But what happens is you'll get this stuttering, jittery motion, because think about it. The way motion pictures work is by tricking your eye to have the motion blur. If you were to take all the shots, you could shoot it at 1/400th. What you see on the screen is this, like strobe effect of the pictures. So what's required in the rule is 2 times the frame rate is what's gonna trick your eye. You can shoot higher, it won't look right.
So you have to set all of that, even though you're in the video mode.
Correct.
Yep.
Right.
Yep. All your settings are available to you.
And we were shooting manually the other day, you know, because it doesn't really matter, you know, when we were shooting wide open or at F13, 160, and then ISO 100.
This is a 200/600 with a 1.7 adapter, and the base is F9, so it's a lot of light by the time it gets to the sensor.
The other camera is 200/800, so that's F7.1 is the low. So here's what happens if you shoot. So here we're shooting at 1/50th f1.8, 100 ISO. That's as low as you can go, right? So that's for 24 frames a second. You're going to blow up. If you up it and say, okay, well, let's shoot at 60 frames a second. So that's 125. You're still overexposed. Even if you go all the way up to 120 frames at 1/250 of an ISO, you're still blowing out. So when you add the 6-stop neutral density, that's what brings it back in. So now the only other way around that, if you're shooting wildlife, do you really need to be at 1.8? You know, if you want a nice creepy background like Phil gets all the time, then you want that depth of field, and you may want to put the neutral density filter on. But for most wildlife, you know what the critical focus is on birds and animals out in the wild. It doesn't hurt to be at the higher apertures. So what do all these things mean when you see 720p, 1080p, 4K? You know, HD is technically 720, full HD is 1080. And then 4K is, you know, quite a bit bigger. So 1080 has twice as much data as 720, and 4K has 4 times as much data. And that's just a function of, you know, how many pixels you're lighting up. So which should you use? And how do you use it? You know, you can shoot in a lot of, in addition to the resolution, there are all these, what they call codecs. And think of codecs as nothing more than like a shell where it's being compressed, like a JPEG. And each camera has, and each manufacturer has all these different codecs. We'll take a look at some of them, and they get very confusing, but we can simplify it for you.
Don't use RAW.
And you don't use RAW. We'll show you why in a minute. You think you'd want to use RAW, but don't. All right, so this is the back of R5. And so the things to look at here are, we're shooting in full HD, so that's 1080. We're shooting at 30 frames a second. And we're shooting in one of these crazy codecs. So you see raw here, all AI, IPB light. We're shooting in IPB. And the thing to look at here is total recording time. So 12 hours. On the next one, the thing that changes is we're going to 4K, 60 frames a second. We're still in IPB, which is a compressed, kind of like a JPEG. And you see the recording time goes down to 1 hour and 36 minutes. So you can see, and this is on a 256 gig card. So you can see the amount of data that's being pushed out to that card. So here we are. Now we're going to do 4K, 60 frames, all high. Well, all high is a better codec, it's less compressed. So that's why they're saying for editing, use all AI. Typically, we use IPB because you need a really powerful computer to decode this when you go to edit. If you don't have a powerful computer, then you can use all AI. You're going to get a bigger file size, but and you can see the difference. 23 minutes. And then down there by Neyland is why I tell them Neyland, you don't use RAW.
So RAW is wonderful for still images. We're all been trained to use RAW. But if you're going to shoot 8K RAW, oh, it boggles my mind.
24 frames a second.
20 and only 24 frames a second. Imagine that. You're going to get on this 256 gigabyte memory card, you're going to get 8 minutes and 15 seconds of data. Now, what are you going to do with that 8K? Would you want to do that? And why would you want RAW?
That is one of the primary differences with photography, and we're so used to shooting in RAW. And basically think of movies as tons of JPEGs. So there is less latitude to push the image around in editing. And so it's probably more important to get the exposure correct when you're shooting video, because you don't have that kind of latitude. If you want to shoot RAW, then you have that latitude, and the controls just look like you're in the right room. You have to have a monstrous computer, and it just bogs everything down.
There is one time when it's useful to shoot 8K, probably not RAW still, but if you're going to shoot where you want to capture stills from your video, 8K at 60 or 120 is the way to do that. You will get still images that you can then print.
So the key when you're picking a resolution is to think about what you're going to deliver. If you're shooting wildlife, which is principally what we're talking about here tonight, as opposed to, say, interviews, think 4K, but not many TVs can deliver 4K. So you're going to end up in the editing software exporting it at 1080. But there are reasons to shoot 4K that we're going to go over, because it does give you some advantages. The principally being you can allow for some composition differences. So look at the difference here. If we're going to deliver it into YouTube at 1080, but we're shooting in 4K, that's not going to fit in here. So we have to scale it down. Well, you get tons of detail. But the other option is you can zoom in and crop into a very small thing. So all of a sudden, a lens like any of these is really twice as powerful, because you can zoom in and not lose any detail. So that's the reason for shooting 4K.
Copying when you're editing.
Cropping when you're editing, that's correct. There's another reason we'll get to as well.
Yeah. So composition is one thing. It allows room for stabilization. We'll show you exactly how the stabilization works. And basically, the stabilization is cropping in a little bit and taking out some of the jitters. And so then you can make all those decisions, slow-mo, cropping, all that by shooting 4K but delivering to 1080.
4K 60.
Yeah. Next slide. Okay, so this was the other day. It was pretty windy. Tuesday. Here is, and these are on these tripods here. You can see this is up on the tower. And so this is the software smoothing that out.
Not perfect.
Not perfect, but it does it pretty good. This is a handheld 4K. And now we're going to go to, here's the stabilizing. Here you can see how it's stabilizing. You see how it's cropping in and it's moving around. So you're going to lose part of the image, because so there it is back as 4K in the timeline. So it's all too large, doesn't really fit. And here it is downsized to 1080, so it all fits in there. And you can see it's quite a bit smoother. So those are the two advantages to shooting in 4K. Does that make sense?
Is that in-camera stabilization you're showing there, or is?
No.
Oh, that's software after the fact, and the in-camera was on. Yeah, it's very difficult with a long lens to shoot handheld and shoot video. You know, it's great for stills, but, and here is, you can see, go ahead and hit this. This is what a GoPro does. And you can see we're moving pretty fast here. This is in Zion. And the GoPro does a great job of stabilizing. Later on, we crash, but you. What notice?
Great job of stabilizing.
Pardon, that is the in-camera stabilization with the GoPro. It does a great job. So your opportunities for stabilizing the footage and making it simple is, the next slide. First, your phone. Press that and see if it'll play. There. The phone does a great job. This is handheld. And a lot next to my house, and it does a terrific job. Go to the next one. This is the DJI Mobile Osmo that you hold the phone with. And go ahead and press that. You can see that it doesn't as good a job as the phone, but you know, now you're spending $89. It doesn't allow you to get maybe lower and hold it in a little different manner.
You can do smoother panning too with it.
Yeah. So then the big baby is, go ahead. You can put your, on a gimbal, put your mirrorless on there. It's not turned on there now, but, to that, and I think, yeah, press that and it'll close the video. So basically it has a joystick and it's just like, you know, you're working a drone. And it'll hold a relatively smaller camera with a smaller lens. It will hold that camcorder, so that has the advantage of having the zoom lens on it. You can never put on this type of gimbal these bigger lenses, but it works pretty well. Our experience with the monopod the other day, it's terrible. I thought it would be great, you know, based on our experience, Phil, but you know, it's great for shooting stills. It's still not steady enough, and so you end up with a tripod with the fluid head. So what's a fluid head and why does it make it different? The fluid head allows you to, these are locked down. You know. It allows you to move the camera, like if this is locked down now, so you're only moving in the horizontal or the tilt. And you would be able to go up at a real smooth flow. And it'll hold it, you know, it's sort of like a gimbal. You can lock down either one of the directions.
You can go up at the brake and feel how this moves, so you get a sense of it.
Next slide. So we don't like the jittery stuff. Nobody likes that. Hard to get. You can handhold, but you know, it's only okay. The tripod is the way to go, or a gimbal, or the drone does a terrific job too. Camera movements. Go ahead and demonstrate a few of them.
Falling over.
I don't have it fall over.
I don't think this is the right tripod for this. You could see in the picture from earlier, I used the bigger one the other day, and I think I need that. So there's pans. Pans are back and forth, side to side. And you could do that if you just want to get an overview of a scene, for example. It's good for that. There's tilts, where if you want to shoot from the top of the building down to the first floor, and that's what tilts are. There's tracking shots. I was out shooting a great blue heron over at Eagle Lakes the other day, and he kind of walked along the shore, and I just followed him along. That's a tracking shot. You have to move at his speed. It's not a steady speed. And then there's push in, pull out, dolly shot. You can do that with a zoom lens. You can zoom in and zoom out. Or if you got the camera on your shoulder, you can walk closer, or with a stabilizer, of course, you can get closer to your subject. That would be dollying in.
Is there a rule of thumb for panning speed?
Uh,
No, but it is relatively slow.
Yeah.
What you'll notice if you watch them do it with a dolly or with hand is, and you can do it in the editing software, is start off slow, come up to a higher speed, and then slow down again at the end. And so you can do that in the software, but if you watch a movie crew, they do it by hand and they're very well trained to do that.
Jim, did you
Yes.
try using a drone at all?
Not yet.
Well, the problem with shooting with the drone is you can't shoot it in national parks or even in marsh trails.
Even in Naples.
Yeah, or near an airport. And so, well, it's great footage. And there was a big argument yesterday because Biden signed the Explore Act here last week. So we're allowed to now film for like YouTube in the national park without a permit. Prior to last week, even for us to shoot, and you're gonna put it up on YouTube, we had to get a permit. Doesn't matter if you were a crew of 1 or a crew of 100. So now they changed the law to where it's 6 people and less. We can shoot for YouTube, it can be for commercial purposes, as long as you're not messing up the park. So that's a big change. But drones are not allowed. Okay. So, composition. It's different but the same. The rule of third dominates. Think of your news programs. Typically, you'll have the talking head on the left, the rule of third, and the story will be the other 2/3. So, anything you look at, they're heavily involved with rule of thirds. The differences come in leaving room for motion within the frame. You need to watch your head. You actually need to, and that's why Alan and I like 4K, is shoot wider, and then in post, in your editing, if you have to crop in, but be sure you get everything and be able to reframe in your editing software.
I was shooting at Hinges out at Eagle Lakes the other day. If you shoot at Hinges and you're trying to catch video, you know, the head goes like this, and then it goes like this. And it's going to be out of your frame if you don't have enough room in there.
Yeah, and you saw it in the video. By the way, you know, we're just learning video. We're just maybe a step or two ahead.
That's it.
Really not very good.
That's it.
And consider motion within the frame. You know, that's really important. Like, it's okay to walk out of the frame, but we would never allow that in a still photograph. You know, that's a good transition to, you know, the next scene in the film. So that's kind of allowed. And it's still about storytelling, but we'll talk more about that in a moment. So these are just a list of some of the different shots that this is the movie speak that the cinema crews talk about. You know, extreme close-ups, medium shots, wide shots, establishing shots, you know, reaction shots. Those are all a little bit different than what in thinking than what we do. So camera angles are different in some respects.
You're not going to use most of these unless you've got a trained egret that's going to pose as you ask it to.
Or an eagle.
An eagle, yeah.
Eagle is doing pretty good. So the biggest difference in photography and video is sound. And it's truly 50% of the equation. And you know, people will tolerate bad video, but they don't tolerate bad sound. I mean, I got a couple of nasty remarks over here to start the thing because we had a little bit of an echo. to the YouTube people. So, you can only tolerate it for a very small thing. So that's a really foreign area. It's difficult, as you can see by all this stuff we have here, and it is difficult in the field. But there are some things you can do. First thing is, don't use a camera microphone. Don't. It's terrible. It's tiny, and it is not you're gonna get a lot of wind noise, and we're gonna encourage you to use something else. The two things we encourage you to use is, on Malin's camera and my camera, we have shotgun microphones. And they have windscreens on them called dead cats. No offense to the cat owners. It's just what it's called. And so, it will mitigate some of the sound, and the shotgun mic, the reason it's called that is the sound pattern is very narrow. So it would be like it's Sue or Diana. It's not gonna get like Karen or anybody over here. It's very, very directional. As opposed to, say, the microphone in here is gonna get sound throughout the room. The other choice is to do a lavalier mic or one of these smaller mics like we have here, we're using tonight for the YouTube feed. And the advantage there is you can put it up close, and so it's only going to pick up the sound by the person. So you would use this like if you were shooting an interview or shooting a person that you wanted to talk to.
On Monday, I volunteered to shoot the Garden Club meeting, which is a presenter on a stage. And I used these new DJI mics that I got for that, and you didn't catch any of the room sound at all. You just got the speaker in the mics. So that sort of thing is really good.
Yeah, so for the YouTube, we're actually recording the sound off of these, not off of this through there. So, and I'm using the Rodes. These are the Rodes. They're all in that $250 to $300 for a set of.
$160 for these.
Well, that's one or two.
Two.
So those are your choices. Important things are, wind is your enemy, so use the dead cat. Not your own cat. Keep the mic as close as possible to the sound source, and then test and monitor, which is a lot of times you'll see me up here with the headphones. The reason for that is to see what is going on. What are they actually hearing out there? Are you really recording sound? Because it's kind of like not putting the card in the camera, You forgot to turn the sound up. That happens a lot. And one thing we talked about today when we were rehearsing is you don't have to shoot with sound. It's kind of intimidating. And you can shoot just a video and then either put music to the back of it like Christina does, or after the fact, put a voice over on it where you talk through it. And then you can write the script, you can read it at your leisure, you can make mistakes, and you can apply that over the video. And so don't get, upset or, intimidated by the sound thing. Because there's ways to mitigate it. And I would start off with just shooting and then do music.
There's this one guy that works for every video, cinema, photography, movie studio in the country. His name is Foley. You know Foley?
Yes.
Yeah. Foley is basically sound effects added to what you see. And almost every movie you see is going to have sound effects edited in. You can do that in my photos too. You will find that there's a lot of bird sound effects and animal sound effects out there. I'm sure art would not allow this in movie competition, but it's if you want to present an interesting story to your friends and your family, this helps make it better.
In the beginning video there at Venice, you heard the shutter clicks. Oh, that's a sound effect that was added in after the fact. And just shooting the other day at Marsh Trail, even with the shotgun mics, you're picking up the road noise, you're picking up the air bolts over there behind there. So a lot of times, if you can get a quiet period, you can just take your phone out hit record the sound of the birds and stuff, and then play that in underneath it after the fact. It doesn't have to match up, you know. What has to match up is when you have talking people and the lips have to match the video. So storytelling. So when we do photograph, you know, the story is a big part of it. Everybody knows this photograph and it certainly tells a story. But the video, we have different options. We have some that are the same and some that are different. We have light. We have light and composition, but motion and sound are things that are different, and they can play into that story. And so how do we think about that when we go out to shoot a video?
And editing.
Well, in editing, while we have that in photography, it's slightly different. A video requires some thought and pre-planning on it. It isn't, you know, it isn't like you could just go out and shoot. If you took out your phone right now and we shot this room, would that tell the story of this meeting? Not really. You know, if you think about it, what you should do, you would have taken a picture driving into the parking lot, a couple seconds getting out of the car, a couple seconds walking up the walkway, a couple seconds waving to Edison, coming into the door, talking to Betty and Christina, then sitting down at the table, talking to your buddies. So, you know, those are short little segments. And when we talk about planning and thought, it's kind of foreign to us thinking in that way as photographers, because we're out there trying to capture a slice in time, trying to tell a story through a bunch of small segments. So that's a major, major difference. Short videos matter, you know, YouTube is obviously very important, and you think about that. You know, you've all looked at the YouTube shorts or whatever, you know, they're only a few seconds or minutes. CNN certainly has ruined our attention span with 2-minute stories. And so you have to capture that attention by telling that story, grabbing somebody, and then telling the story in a quick, succinct manner. And it isn't like you just take the camera and pan across the room here for 30 seconds. It literally should be little small snippets, picture of Donna, wide picture of the room to set the stage, and cut into smaller things. And that's quite a bit different than what we do in photography. So that hook is important. Anything you want to add over there?
Nope.
So defining your goal when you go out, even when we go out for wildlife, you know, it's like the other day, you know, I had shot a couple days before, and I looked at that footage and said, gee, I missed this, I missed that, you know, and in this case, I could go back out and shoot it, but a lot of times you only get one shot at it, and so you really need to put together, at least mentally, a shot list and plan out what you're trying to accomplish. What is the story you're trying to tell? You know, is it about the birds and feeding and how the mother goes through craziness? And if you're shooting with people, obviously, you know, there's a whole different, you know, set of criteria. You know, it's the storytelling, the arc of the story, conflict, resolution, all of that. You know, for wildlife photography, it's a little bit different, or videography.
So a plan I have to go down to Eagle Lake says, all right, there's gonna be some birds down there. I don't know what kind. I don't know where they're gonna be, but I'm gonna go find them. And then take some, but that's the plan, to take video of birds. And then I flesh that out when I get there and I find out what there is to shoot, try and find the best angles, figure out how I might use that later on in a complete video. So sometimes the story gets developed as you are shooting rather than ahead of time, but it's all up here beforehand.
And that's true of a lot of documentaries. You know, people go out there, how they're going to get when they interview these people. You know, so one of the toughest editing jobs is actually editing a documentary, because you don't know what the story is when you start. You have to go interview people, how do they react, you learn things, you ask more questions, you develop the story kind of as you do it. We have a little bit of an advantage if you're just doing wildlife, because we kind of plan out some of that. So, part of that storytelling is the visuals, which is pretty obvious, and using motion to tell the story, but also the audio. And, whether that's just the nice music in behind, whether that's a voiceover, or in the case of interviewing people, you use the mics and ask the questions. I remember interviewing Sonny for a video. He was terrified. I couldn't figure out why. But, we sat down with the camera rolling and just, BS for a little while, and people can relax then. And then, it's a matter of you just asking questions and letting them talk. So if you're gonna do an interview with people, let them relax, make it like a big deal. And in most cases, you can just let the camera roll because you can cut, the important parts. So it isn't like they should be intimidated because you can string it all together and make it effective. So pacing, this is what I talked about. Next time you're watching a movie, just take a minute and count how many seconds they hold on each shot. It is like 3, 4, 5, 10 seconds is a long time. And so they're moving, and that's what they call pacing, and it's telling the story, and you're using that. And so it isn't, again, it gets back to, it's pretty boring to just set the camera, hit the video record button, and let it play. That's where the thinking comes in about the little vignettes that you're going to capture and then string those together. And that's a big difference from the photography. We also have in videography, we have the advantage of putting text overlays on to help tell the story, or identify the people, or identify the bird, or in the case of that video we showed, the XF data on the photographs. So you can do that after the fact in the editing software. And then like in the slideshows, people tend to use a lot of fancy transitions. Go again, look at a movie. They're basically all pre-cut. They're hard cuts. Very few do they use the dissolve. They'll create a transition, and one of the best places is to go and watch an Apple product introduction. Remember how they do it where Tim Cook's talking, and then it'll go up to the sky. They will do a tilt off to the sky, and then come down to the next presenter in a different location. And so you never know. That's called a transition. It went into the blue sky, it started in the blue sky, came to a different location, different person. That's been effective.
One of the techniques that works very well to keep you from noticing the hard cuts all the time is they do what they call J cuts and L cuts. That is, they'll extend the audio as the cut is going on. So if a person's talking, you'll hear that person talking. They'll make the cut here. That person keeps talking. And then when this cut goes to the other person, and then when this person starts to talk, they switch the audio to that person. That's a J cut or an L cut because the audio is an L underneath or a J underneath the video. That's a way to kind of fool you to not notice a hard cut by making the audio somewhere else change.
But next time you watch an Apple introduction, watch their transitions because they are unbelievable.
Yep.
The other thing that helps tell a story is what's called B-roll. So there was some B-roll in the Venice Rotary deal. The whole part in the beginning there were driving, the little snippets of the driving, establishing where you're going, those are all things that helps to tell the story. They're generally close-ups, they're generally pretty short, and they establish or add to the story. And so the person can continue talking And then you're showing these other scenes, and they're close-ups. They're making coffee, and you're showing, while they're talking through, while they're doing the coffee, it's a close-up of the grinder. It's a close-up of pouring the beans into the grinder. It's doing the pour over on the coffee. So all little vignettes, while the person is talking, helps explain that story. And they're only 5 seconds, 3 seconds each, but they really add, establish, what the environment is. So, tips for capturing effective B-roll, plan ahead. You can never have too much video. I mean, I can't tell you how many times we've gotten back and said, oh, this is that shot, what are we gonna do here? The story's got a big gap in it. That's where AI comes in. You don't get there. And capturing a variety, the other thing is, when you watch a movie, they'll start with a wide shot, then a medium shot, then close up, they'll come back. It's the same scene, but, they've each established all these different shots. And just as an aside, the difference between our lenses and a cinema lens is, the cinema lens doesn't have any clicks for the f-stop. So if you spin the dial over here for the aperture, there's no clicks. So they can change the aperture while they're filming, and there's no jerk when you go from f11 to f8. The other thing is they're all in the focus, and they're all in T-stops, not f-stops. So what's a T-stop? T stands for transmission. Ours are a calculated value. Theirs are the actual transmission of the light. So what they'll do on a cinema camera in a movie is they'll only use typically primes. Primes will be all the same length physically. You'll have a 35, a 50, an 85, a 135. And the reason they're in T-stops is if you're a 280 T-stops and you want to do the close-up shot, you put the 135 on, it's exactly the same exposure, not what ours is. And they can switch back and forth. So they'll use sets of lenses, very expensive. The other thing is, because it's all manual focus, there's a camera operator and an assistant, and the assistant is the one that's doing the focusing. Well, we don't have to do that. We found that the focus work pretty good. No?
Not for me.
That's because he uses
Sony camera.
You knew there was a problem.
Autofocus can work pretty well if your subject is fairly static. I was trying to capture birds in flight, and trying to capture the bird in flight, your autofocus goes somewhere else as soon as you get off the bird. And it may or may not get back to the bird if you find the bird in your viewfinder. So most of the wildlife photographers or videographers that I've been looking at on YouTube suggest you learn how to do manual focus quickly. And on my lens, it's right here, and I've learned just to touch it back and forth just to get that focus right.
And as an FYI, Phil, there is no focus on the 200 to 800. It's electronic. It took me a while to figure that out. So you have to put it in manual, and then the control ring becomes the focus ring on it. So it's by wire. I found what I find with the autofocus on the birds is it's much slower than what we're used to shooting stills. The Canon was doing pretty good, but what we haven't figured out, that we're amazed by, is if some of you have seen Mark Smith, who shoots the ospreys over in Sebastian Inlet. He's got all these great, shots of the osprey diving down, the eagles diving down. I don't know how he does it. Very difficult to track the bird. All right, so now you got all this, what we're gonna do with it. But our recommendation would be start free. Um, Malin uses DaVinci Resolve. You use the free version, right?
No.
You use the paid.
Mhm.
The free version does a terrific job. And we've also looked at CapCut for you. It's pretty good. It does most of the things. Both of those are free. DaVinci would be the better choice because you can grow with it to the paid program, and the paid program is not a subscription, it's a one-time.
One time, $300 one time. Yeah, what you get in the paid version of DaVinci is things that you probably don't need, like better use of the hardware processing on your computer.
Cloud computing.
Yeah, cloud computing, where you can work with a group of other people who are working on your same project, for example, by putting your videos in the cloud. The free version is going to do everything you're going to want to do initially, at least, for sure. CapCut, I tried CapCut, and what I found was it does a lot of things, but one of the things, if you're going to try and shoot wildlife, is stabilization. You have to get into the paid version, and it's a subscription, like Adobe. And I forget what the amount was, but just watch out for that.
And I use Premiere Pro, but it's part of the large Creative Cloud. So, and there, I would say that there is a learning curve.
Definitely a learning curve.
And that's why we're going to go into it tonight. This is Newland's video, so he's going to talk about, this is DaVinci.
The things that are on the screen here, you're going to find in pretty much any editor, any video editor. The top left section is where your clips are, and kind of in your library, and you get to choose those. You bring them into your viewer, and you can take subsections of your clip, and then you put it down to your timeline, which is where you assemble the finished video. You've got transitions, if you want to use transitions, and other things like titles and generators, if you want some sort of a colored background, for example. This is your timeline. You have your video on the top generally, and your sound on the bottom. And this particular one, this is the one that, well, by the way, this is the timeline for the one that was on the web on the homepage. So you've got the sounds from local. This section right in here is where I clipped out Phil and I talking to each other, which I didn't want to keep in the video. And then down there, you've got the music. Up here, we've got, if you want to change any of the effects, like the sizing of the video on the screen, where it appears, so you size it up, and then you got to move it over and shift it down. All that's controlled over on this side. And then this is just a blow up where you can see where I've added transitions in between the two video clips there. That's what the light box means. There's a transition there. And you can look at the audio waveform.
So go back to that one for a second. So you don't have to use, these are the sounds coming out of the camera. And, you know, if they're inappropriate or there's a truck going by, you can cut that out, let it go blank, and let the music or whatever else you got going on underneath play through that. So again, this gets back to, you know, while the sound is intimidating, you get away with not having it. So this is the timeline for Venice video. And so you can see all the clips here. These are all the sounds from the individual clips. You probably can't see this, but these are the shutter clicks here down here, sound effects, and then the music underneath. The above are kind of like Photoshop, where you can add adjustment layers. So you can correct the color. You can do other adjustments to it, and it's added to it just like it is in Photoshop. So these, you know, apply downward, and the sound applies upward. So very much like Photoshop. What's different, of course, is cutting these together or shortening. Most of these clips, I would say, in yours too, you know, we may shoot 20 or 30-second clips, but then cut it down to 5 seconds. Take the good part out. So if you want more information, CapCut has some great tutorials. And there are some YouTube videos. There's a lot of YouTube videos. So
we're not going to do this.
Okay,
We don't have time.
so why don't you talk to them
I'll
about?
just make a word, speak a little bit to this slide. For those of you with iPhones, you want to shoot video, these are the settings you would go, select your camera, say record in whatever way you want to record it, cinematic probably. And then 4K at 24, 4K at 30, or 1080p at 30. This is how you would set up your iPhone to tape
The
video.
iPhone will actually go to 120, 240 in slow-mo.
This was an older iPhone. How many of you have the newest iPhone? Okay, cool. How many of you have Android
Well, you can
phones?
even shoot RAW.
Bigger crowd out there. So this is Samsung. I have an S22 Ultra. And at the top, you would set the resolution, the aspect ratio. The resolution is actually next to the circle. It says UHD 30, that's 4K 30. UHD means Ultra HD. And then you have a video button at the bottom. And that's all you have to do to record video in an Android phone for starters. Okay. Okay. How many of you want to learn more? How many want to come to sessions and learn more? One, two, most of your eyes are glazed over and you've fallen asleep. And yeah, we knew that was going to happen. You're all in hypnosis now, so one, put your hands up if you're interested in coming to a learning session at the training center. There would be 2 to 3 hour sessions on Saturday mornings, starting a week from Saturday. 1, 2, 3, 4. Phil, you still interested? 5, 6. Okay, that makes it work.
One more back here.
Okay, we'll let you come in, Art.
Art's professional.
Yeah, it's a professional though, yeah. He taught video production. Is that our last slide?
Yep.
So any questions? Good.
Hopefully,
You said everything we had to say.
you know, it is exciting. You have a question, you have a question. Somebody back there?
All right, so I've got a 270 camera, one is a full frame.
Repeat the question.
One is a crop frame.
Yep.
And
Full frame, crop frame.
yeah, I happen to be going to Yellowstone in winter, and I was thinking I'd like to shoot still, but now you've got me interested in shooting video. Could I use the crop frame?
This is the crop frame. All that was shot on the Canon R7 crop frame. So this makes this lens, you know.
Yeah, 50% full.
Yeah, 1.6 in Canon, yeah. And yours is full frame on the Sony. So we were shooting full frame. So there's really no difference because you know, most cinema cameras are actually APS-C cameras. They're crop frame cameras.
The crop frame is actually better in some way.
The reason that the police like our mirrorless cameras in full frame is because they can put a lens that can go down to 1.8 and get the blurry background, which they can't get on their normal cinema cameras. So when you see them intrigued with, and that's kind of got video, all the camera producers making them for video is because the movie makers wanted small cameras that could put in difficult places to put some big camera in and get really short, blurry backgrounds. Question, way in the back.
What software, if I want to take my photos and put the background unit in?
All that, you need to see the young lady. Christina does that, and there are a number of places you can do it. She found one that's really good, and she has had really good experience with it. We have, at least Malin and I think Christina are on Epidemic Sound. You know, one of the issues we have here with going to YouTube is copyright protection on music. So Artlist and Epidemic Sound are 2 resources where you get royalty-free music that won't get, you know, jabbed by YouTube. Other questions?
You only have like a 2 gigabyte card there.
So the camera would actually say on videos, you can only take basically 30 minutes of video. Now with the bigger cards, can you just go ahead, or is it just gonna, it said it would just stop?
Two things. The cards are really important. So on the R5, you have the CFB card, and that is very fast. And then you have an SD card. On the
UHS-2, you'd want to use UHS-2 SD cards.
Right here, these are both SD cards. The speed of the card is incredibly important, particularly if you're going to go to, because you want a card that's reading as fast as the camera is putting out all those frames. And so that's where you need like a V90 card. A lot of times the V60 card does the more. So it ends up being a pretty expensive SD card. Like 256 is $256. So,
You said two things?
yeah,
What was the other thing?
I don't know. I hope.
There was a legal issue with shooting more than 30 minutes.
Yeah.
That was, I think the European Union brought that in, and that's been removed. So the newer cameras will shoot more than 30 minutes.
Well, the other issue on the R5 was in shooting the 8K. The higher you go, we're pushing a lot of data, right? As you saw, it was 8 minutes on that one particular camera overheats. I think, did you have the camera? Did you have your R5s overheat when you're shooting stills in Costa Rica? You, talking to you?
I know.
Did you? I did.
I can't remember. I don't think it's like this.
So that's one thing, if you're shooting in the sun, the R5 is known for overheating. And I had it even with the stills in Costa Rica. When we were sitting at that place, it was sitting in the sun. In Boca Tapana. Yeah. Yeah, that's what it's doing. So heat is an issue. That's why you can't, with the R5C, they put a fan in it. If you look at cinema cameras, they all of them have a fan because think about it, you're pushing all that data onto that cover and it does get hot. Any other questions? Okay.
Big time.
Thanks.
Video group everything to the point where you get into editing. Phil does have a complete Adobe factory, so he could have a editing program on that.
We're trying to keep it low cost for people.
Well,
They'd have to buy a license then.
well, yeah, but they can at least
Try it.
learn
They could try it.
on something
Well, you were
that's really
standing
great.
over there and
We do have a program, nobody's using it, but
you know that. It's all right. Okay, it's all right. Our standard disclaimer is, you want to see everything, come to the meeting, damn it. Blank screen with a voice. Sure, sure. Blank screen, but a screen with a Yeah. voice.
We'll
edit in an elephant climbing a mountain or something. Thanks for doing that, Ed.
you might mention that, Malin, that it is recorded and they can go back and watch this several times on the website.
Sure.
Because it was like a overload. It was like the first time you sat down by the camera. And I saw it. It was a very good presentation. It did make sense. You ready to go shoot video? Still learning to take quick notes.
I have another question. So I have, use my A7, whatever it is, I don't know what it is, my full frame. It has 2 slots. So I could use one slot for video and the other for still.
Yep.
If I
You can actually set,
do that.
you can actually set it up that way. And
You can tell it to.
so, yeah, what you're gonna record everything on both cards, or you're gonna record stills on one and video on the other. Yep, you can do that.
It's gonna be really interesting. I might try this.
Give me a call, I'll help you find that in the menu
I'm
if you
gonna
need to.
be, in 2 weeks, I'm gonna be in Yellowstone in winter.
Or better yet, if you get another seat on a plane, you can put me in and I'll go with you and show you how to do
Oh,
it.
sure. And there is probably gonna be another seat. But you gotta pay.
Oh, I gotta pay. Oh, darn, no, that doesn't work.
Incredible deal. actually at Yellowstone. It was like, I found, I don't know how I found it. It was like a couple's winter adventure retreat.
Yep.
It was about $2,500 for about 5 days for two people, food and tours, everything included.
Food and everything.
Food and everything.
Wow, that's amazing. Hey, Jeff.
So we'll see.
Good to see you. Welcome back.
Thanks. Here for a couple of weeks. I have some tips you're going to teach this that'll help people understand.
Okay. Can we talk later somehow?
Yeah.
Okay. Maybe on a Zoom meeting?
What's that?
On a Zoom meeting, maybe?
Yeah, we could do that. It's, I can tell you two of them right now, real quick.
Okay.
Okay? To help people understand B-roll. You know where B-roll comes from?
But the name, you mean?
Yeah.
No.
To understand where the name comes from, you'll be able to explain to people. Before we did video and television,
Are you gonna come to my show in Bonita this weekend?
I hadn't thought about it. I didn't know about it.
Okay.
You need some help?
No. I just learned. Have to come.
Yeah. Same place I saw you last time?
Yeah,
Okay.
same area. Yeah, no, not exactly, but
All right. I'll put it in my memory list.
But you know what? Go to my website, it's myname.com, and you'll see where I am. Okay. Like I'll be in Hot Potter on Tuesday, that's close to.
Okay.
Anytime.
before video, we did television. We shot film.
Yeah.
Okay. Let's say I'm interviewing you without making you talk. So I'm just sitting down, we're doing the interview, and you're talking about coffee for 10 minutes. I want a 4-minute interview on it. You're going through the steps. After I do the interview, I go back and I shoot the steps you're talking about so that I can match it up with what you're saying. Number one. You want to put the sound of the coffee machine on there because if you pour water in silent, it's really disconcerting.
Yeah.
When they played the piece on the air, there were 2 chains of film. A-roll, B-roll. There was a script that the projectionist who would play the story had to follow. Here we have Malin talking. He talks about coffee, he hits the button on B roll, or the cover footage rolls, back to A, back to B. So B roll has to enhance what the person's talking about.
Yeah, yeah.
So that's where it came from, and it was always called B roll because it literally was
The second pneumatic machine.
and it would go between the main speaker and what they were talking about. So if you think of shooting B-roll, like it's actually going to be B-roll, it makes more sense than trying to say she covered.
Yeah, yeah.
There were a few other things, but we could do it on a Zoom.
When I shot the garden club on Monday, I used 2 cameras. I used one
Lockdown
with a 100-400
for the people,
for the presenter.
and then lock that down.
And then see that monopod over there? I put my phone on that. I stood it on a table on the end of the presentation table.
Oh, okay. And a third, show the audience.
Pulled those videos into DaVinci and said, sync those.
And it just doesn't.
Automatically, which is amazing. Yeah, it's amazing. It's amazing, but same idea.
Here's the other thing Sonny said to ask you. Can we get something on the website that we let people who want to share a room for the conference be able to?
Oh, that's a good question. I'm gonna have to ponder that. I'm gonna have to ponder that one a little bit.
I mean, even
are you willing to publish your information is the question.
Well, it's member to member.
But they've got to get you information somehow.
Well, it's on the DPI-SIG website.
No, we're not using the DPI-SIG website for the conference.
No, it's just for DPI-SIG.
Just for DPI-SIG, okay.
No, not all of the strangers.
Okay.
Just the people in our club. If we're gonna go up there, somebody want to speak.
Okay, yeah, so just create a list, and if your contact info is in the, I think it's only email, it's
just say
in the list that people can see. How are they gonna do that?
My email.
Well, if you're on the list,
Then the email's
and they have access to it, the email's there.
So who?
So I think we can do that.
Yeah,
Would you send me an email and remind me? That'd be great. That'd be great. Thanks.
And if you need something on Zoom for other stuff, I can do.
I'm planning a trip in April with my grandson to the Galapagos. And I'm
Martin wouldn't let me go with him. Can I go with you?
sure.
Okay. Hey, same deal.
I was only gonna take him to Chincoteague and how the hell this ended up going to, anyway. But, I have a very old, cheap Chinese knockoff, type GoPro there. Not to use that. I'm thinking of getting a new one, and either a GoPro, like the 13, I guess, or the 12. Or there's like the ISP 360, which is an alternative. You would go for the.
I'm not a GoPro guy at all, so
What would you use?
I use my phone.
Thinking of underwater.
Oh,
Because
well, even there, I could use my phone. It's good down to about 6 or 8 feet.
Well, maybe it makes more sense.
Yeah, but I can't advise on GoPros. Get one and try it.
Oh, years ago in Hawaii, snorkeling.
Yeah, that's what I'm
And
thinking.
it was really good. I just bought a little.
I suppose
that was 10 years ago.
there's no real price difference between the two. It's just that people say that this other one, whatever it is, ISP or whatever, 360, is better in low light.
Okay.
Ambient light is below water. Usually the light is a little dimmer,
They're all pretty much fixed lenses, aren't they?
I think.
Yeah, but then if you're shooting 4K, you can edit in your frames.
Change the
Yeah.
aperture or something.
Yeah,
I go with the one that has the easiest menus to work with.
that makes sense.
Pro was terrible.
That makes sense.
Especially here.
You're trying to right.
You got a question, Chuck?
Yeah, so I go out and I gather all this video stuff. I want to process it. What do you use it? Because I find whenever I try to do something with video, it just bogs down my laptop. I thought it was a pretty small and easy laptop, and evidently it doesn't work very well.
What resolution are you shooting in?
Way too much. Yeah, probably.
One of the things, another reason to recommend DaVinci is you can proxy your video for editing it. So you can set your timeline resolution at much lower resolution than your actual video. So
you can just set it all up and then just walk it out.
I will. You're doing a nice job.
All right, everybody, we're gonna start the video show now, so if you wanna watch it, you better sit down. If you don't wanna watch it, that's okay too.
Yeah, I got about 3 minutes to talk about the outings.
Oh, we're gonna do the outings, presentation on the outings very quickly, and then we're gonna do the video.
And then we're gonna do the drawing. You got both microphones on here, Jim?
Yes.
Ready to go? Okay. So, how many of you here went on the outing with us in June to the Naples Players? 1, 2, 3, just a few. Did you guys have a good time at that outing? Yes, I'm seeing you. Head shaking, yes. Sonny was up at the balcony. We were afraid he was going to fall off. You can see him here with his big camera leaning over. He didn't fall off. So we're doing our outing with the Naples Players, and that's going to be in March. But I'm going to talk about January 1st. January 27th at 8:30. I do have to announce this as tentative because the Sheriff's Department won't tell me until a week before that they can confirm this exact date and time. So if you sign up for it, and if it changes, we'll certainly let you know. If you want to sign up for it, send me an email saying, hey, I want to go to this outing. There's no special requirements other than you get your name on the list so that when you get there, we'll give you a name tag and the sheriffs will know who to arrest. This is at the Patriot Way at the Naples Airport, which is up just beyond the recycling center, if you're familiar with that area. Sign up is required. Send me email. Name tags will be provided. We're going to be shooting the airport, the hangar, the helicopters, and all the special ops vehicles, as well as the deputies, and asking questions and so forth. Naples Players. The Man from La Mancha at Sugden Theater, 701 Fifth Avenue on March 10th at 6:30 p.m. This one is firm because they've got a whole bunch of actors and musicians and so forth that have to be in place for this dress rehearsal to happen. This will be a full dress rehearsal, probably no stopping, although they might stop for something, but they're going to run through the whole show.
In addition to the dress rehearsal itself, we're gonna be doing a portrait setup, right, Karen?
Yes.
And maybe 2 or 3 of them, we'll see what we can do. And so you'll be able to get portraits of the actors and staff and whoever else is there, each other maybe if you want to. And as well as we'll have access to the building. Now, since we went in June, there are 2 more theaters that have opened in the building. There's a whole new mezzanine up on the 3rd floor. The costume shop is now moved to its final location. The scene shop will be open, so there's a lot of other things in the theater to shoot. If you were there the first time, there's more stuff to take pictures of. And not only is sign up required for this one, but the theater requires that they do a background check on you. And it's not a big deal. I was gonna bring forms tonight, but I didn't. You'll find a form online on the webpage. There's now a webpage for this outing. And they just do that because they're gonna have underage people in the theater and they wanna make sure that everybody in there is safe. Christina's in there all the time, and I'm down there volunteering all the time. It's a great place to work. They do so much good for this county and this community.
If they did a background check on you previously,
You're all set.
all right.
If you signed up before, we'll give them the list of who was there the last time, and if you were checked before, we assume you haven't, broken many huge laws since then. Got an idea for an outing? Someplace you'd like to go? Larry is our outing director, and he's outing this month. He's out west in Arizona, Utah, Nevada. I don't know. He's having a great time out there. So if you want to have an outing someplace, you got some great ideas, please let us know, and we'll see what we can do. Okay. Now we can go to the videos. Christina, anything you want to say about this? Yeah, you're gonna hide in the corner, right? Okay.
Okay, we're running a little bit behind, so we have 8 door prizes. Hope everybody looked at them ahead of time, and the first winner is